How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Investing with Zeke. So, we did it again. We did it again. Another 30% in a relatively short period of time when the market usually only brings in about 7% a year. So, congratulations to all the MJ holders. There's a big reason. Go ahead. Congratulations. Right? Yeah. Now, why did we go crazy the way we did? I'm going to tell you why and why I picked the stock that I did in the MJ sector. So this is Tilray. Stock ticker TLRY. We're sitting at a $1.6 billion market cap. And I think we're extremely undervalued. And we have a lot of leg room to run. And I'm going to get off into that. But first, we're going to let the experts tell us why stocks in the MJ sector are soaring. So let's get off and do it.
With Renita Young, senior markets correspondent. We're taking a look at cannabis stocks. They're on the move today, on the rise, after some news out of Germany. What's the latest, Renita?
Well, the Mary Jane trade is pretty lit up today, Diane, and it's all from news from Germany. It's granting a partial legislation when it comes to personal cannabis use. This will go into effect on April 1st. But this is a continuation of pretty good news for cannabis proponents because it also got some good news earlier this week, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But it allows adults over in Germany to carry up to 25 grams of cannabis in public and then store up to 50 grams and grow about 3 cannabis plants at home. But consumption, of course, will be banned in certain areas like schools. And yes, minors are still prohibited from carrying and consuming cannabis. They had to say that. But it has been a pretty good week for pot stocks. Week to date, Aurora Cannabis is up more than 50%, Canopy up more than 130%, Tilray up more than 30%. Also coming a day after the White House showed some support for marijuana reforms. Now, both the president and vice president have suggested in the past reclassifying cannabis from a Schedule I controlled substance under federal law. That's a more restrictive classification, and it's in the same category as heroin and LSD. Some people say that the Schedule II may be better, but that's, however, the classification of fentanyl. Others are looking at making this a Schedule III, and that's less restrictive, and it is something that the Health and Human Services in the United States is currently looking into, Diane.
Renita, I almost fully lost it when you said the Mary.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I get the whole joking part of it. Like, jeez. But back to Tlry. So that's why MJ has been going crazy. So I'm not in this because of the whole recreational usage. The reason why it's important to be federally legal is because these companies can't even breathe without being able to write off taxes, lost taxes. Can't do that if you're selling illegal substances. So that's why the MJ sector has been, destroyed, literally. Like, look at the Max. I mean, we have literally flatlined. Yeah, we're doing good this past week. That's why we have so much room to grow, I believe, especially with this ridiculous market cap. I mean, I believe Tilray brings in about $1 billion. Yes, I understand that they lose all of it. Pretty much all of it. I mean, they just became GAAP profitable, I believe, in January, and I believe they continue to be GAAP profitable. But where I see the big money at, because if you just take it without the medical properties, you're looking at, the alcohol total market cap in the U.S. is about $150 billion market cap. So, that's fair to give that the same as the alcohol, MJ alcohol, same thing. So, and I believe Tilray can take 20 to 30% of that, but I believe it's even much, much bigger than that, which still at a $1 billion. That's why it's such a joke that it's a $1 billion market cap. But investors are now not buying unless they actually get approval. So that gives us opportunity to see, maybe Biden's back's against the wall and he has to start throwing haymakers like this out there. I think this is a potential haymaker, and I don't think this is just a pop. I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on it. If you were going to try to take a chance in this space, I would definitely go with the ticker MJ. That just holds all of these, companies in it. Like Tilray, I believe, is the biggest percentage of their ETF. So, or their holdings or whatever you want to call it. So I just decided to go with Tlry, and now I'm going to tell you why I decided to pick Tlry. So if you look at the leaders in the industry, you have Tlry sitting at number one. Like, yeah, I mean, if you can get your hands on a number one, I try to always do it. I mean, I understand with Solar Edge, I grabbed up the number two, but I'll make a video on that. This isn't Solar Edge situation. Tilray is a definite, undervalued play in my book. So, and all of these are. So if you went with Sundial, Canopy, or TerraSend, or Aurora Cannabis, any of these companies are good buys, but I'm going to tell you why I decided to go with Tilray. Besides the fact we're the number one. Let's look at the medical. So the medical list here is the top 5 medical companies in the world. You got Canopy Growth, which you're like, why didn't you pick Canopy? I thought you wanted number one. Jazz Pharmaceuticals, still no Tilray, even at number 2. Aurora Cannabis, still at number 3. All the way at number 4 at the bottom is Tilray. Why do I think Tilray is still the best buy? Even though, we are number one in the leaders, but medical is what really matters to me, right? That's what I was talking about. So if you look at these companies' headquarters, Canopy is in Canada. Jazz Pharmaceuticals is in Ireland. Aurora's headquarters is in Canada. And Tilray, these slippery little bastards somehow slipped themselves into New York. So we are literally our headquarters is in the United States. Coincidence? Leader in the industry? Top 5 in the medical, but number 1 in the United States? We still got this. I don't care about that. Who cares about that? Because Tilray is still the leader in the whole industry. And we're going to see Mr. Irvin Simon actually talk about legalization and what it means to his the legalization. I was making sure I was actually clicking on the right video. I have a lot. We got a lot to go through here. So this is his opinion on the legalization and if it really will affect his business. But listen to him and because I've listened to all of his conference calls. We'll have another one coming up, I believe, in 2 weeks. Yes, I'll be covering it. But let's hear what Mr. Simon has to say about legalization.
Irwin Simon. Irwin, welcome back. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
First on the numbers, looks like you grew share, importantly, in the Canadian market. Mm-hmm. How are you doing that, and what's happening overall in that market in terms of adult use marijuana?
So listen, Tilray got some exciting things. We grew market share in Canada. We grew market share in Europe. We completed the acquisition with ABI. It's interesting. We'll sell 80 million pre-rolls in Canada. We'll sell close to 300 million cans of beer, 12 million cases. We'll sell 5,000 kgs of medical cannabis throughout Europe. We're in 50 states. We're in 10 provinces. We're in 21 countries. We have 12 brands in Canada, 12 brands of beer in the U.S. and our Breckenridge bourbon. And we have 3 brands in Europe in our medical cannabis. So we're doing a lot of things out there. Our top line grew, 15%. Yes. Our loss was higher, but most of it is non-cash, which is amortization, depreciation. And listen, we're building a company. Tilray and the cannabis industry has only been legal in Canada for 5 years. When I got here, we're a $50 million business. We're on a run rate to be $1 billion business.
Is it frustrating, the conversations with investors? Do you think they're understanding the growth story? Because one of the analysts said it's almost like it feels like you're running in place when you look at the share price, even though you're talking about all these exciting growth opportunities and market share gains.
Listen, it is frustrating when you look at your stock price, but on the other hand, when I come back and look what we've done, what we are today, what we have in brands, and what we're doing to change the world in regards to our medical cannabis for epilepsy, for cancer patients, for pain, for sleep. What we're doing in regard to the craft beer. We're now the 5th largest craft brewer. We have a 13.4% share in the Canadian cannabis market, the only legal market in Canada, the only legal market in the world. So we really put together a great business. And listen, we're waiting for legalization to happen in the U.S. If it happens, it will be great, and we're well positioned. If it doesn't, with our beer and bourbon and our nutritional food business, we're absolutely well positioned. But listen, it's frustrating when you go back and look at your stock and where we are. But I got to tell you, we got great people, we got a great strategy, we got great brands, and ultimately one day investors will realize that there's a lot of great assets, intel within the Tilray Brands business.
We're showing some of the different brands. So after this acquisition from ABI, Irwin, where are you focused next? Because I know you're always looking at deals. What sort of categories or geographies?
Well, first of all, in Canada, our focus is how we grow share there and continuously, evolve the legal market there. And that is a big part for us. Listen, Canada, it's a $5 billion market at retail today. It will go to a $10 billion market. I'd like to get a 20% share. In regards to the beer category, I think there's so much excitement to be had within craft beer. It's how to make it cooler again, how to bring more and more consumers into the beer business, how to get more and more distribution on a bourbon business. So I like both those business. My past, I love the food business. Where is there opportunities for us in the nutritional food business? And last but not least, Europe. It's a big world out there in Europe, and medical cannabis is becoming more and more relevant throughout the rest of Europe and the rest of the world. So, the DNA is here. There's a lot of good assets. It's how, again, profitability is important, but so is growth. When you're green, you're growing. When you're ripe, you're rotten. Listen, we're green.
There we go. Get this canceled. Stupid X. All right. So yeah, that's Mr. Simon telling you about. He doesn't even care. I mean, they own beer brands, which, I mean, we can even go into what he's been doing. Actually, this is the acquisition of the 8 beer brands from Yahoo Finance. We'll just go ahead and go off into what his strategy is for Tilray. So you got an idea of a good feel for the guy, right? But let's see where he's deciding to kind of take the company. When he first kind of came into the picture and started buying up these beer brands, and where the direction he is trying to head. Anyway, let's hear what he has to say.
You're watching Yahoo Finance. I'm Julie Hyman. Well, Anheuser-Busch announcing they're going to sell 8 of their beverage labels to Tilray brands. The portfolio includes popular names like Shock Top and Red Hook. The deal, expected to close this year, also included current employees, breweries, and brew pubs related to those beverage makers. And joining me now to talk all about it is Irwin Simon. He is the CEO of Tilray, and you see some of the cans there of those beverages behind him and some of the existing brands as well. Irwin, it's great to see you. This is just the latest deal that you have done. Talk to me about how this one fits into not just the existing portfolio, but the strategy overall of the company.
So, Julie, good afternoon. Great to see you. And here's a lot of our great beer brands and our spirit brands. Listen, I think the exciting thing is, and you've seen what Haynes Celestro, what I was able to do is bring a bunch of brands and diversify the company into multiple categories. Not dissimilar here. When I got, to a free in 2018, we were a $50 million business. We're approaching close to $1 billion in size. And, one of the challenges I ran into was with cannabis was not knowing what legalization was going to happen. Legalization happened in Canada. Medical legalization happened in Europe, in multiple countries. But everybody was waiting for the U.S.
Soup.
And with that, it took a lot of predictability away from earnings and revenue generating. And I think you saw so many cannabis companies where their stocks just got hit hard. And what I wanted to do was make sure we were not dependent upon legalization. We had a good income stream. We had revenue stream. We had predictability of earnings. And I wanted to diversify the company. But what was important, that we had adjacencies out there that they could bring it all together. So today, our cannabis business in Canada, we have the number 1 position with a 13% share, is about 30% of our revenue. Now with our Montauk, our Sweetwater, and our 8 beers that we're acquiring from ABI, along with our Breckenridge and Manitoba Harvest, and then our international business, which is about 30% of our business, and our Manitoba Harvest, gives us a good diversification, gives us ultimately that we can bring it together upon legalization. And very few companies out there today have what we have in beer, spirits, cannabis, and medical cannabis.
There's nothing more powerful than you making your thing happen. Doing business on your
Crazy,
terms.
because I have
So, Erwin, as one of the analysts on the call pointed out, this portfolio of beer brands that you're buying, or I should say beer brands and an energy drink brand in Highball, this portfolio has been seeing declines in the past several years. How do you plan to turn that around? Does being part of your bigger portfolio help you with that strategically?
So number one, listen, we bought Sweetwater in November 2020, and it was not really growing. Montauk was growing. When we bought Green Flash, Alpine, and Nelson's, they weren't growing. So we've done a great job in turning around beer businesses that we acquired. And if I come back, the big thing that I'm focused on here, no different than I looked at the natural organic food industry, no different than I looked at the cannabis world, is ultimately I think there's such opportunity within the craft beer business. You know, Constellation has left the craft beer business. There's a lot of confusion out there with the craft beer business. And the strategy within Tilray is how do we make craft beer cool again? And with that, you know, a lot of consumers were drinking the vodka seltzers and vodka, you know, mixed with sodas and stuff like that. I think taking our current brands and taking with the ABI brands that we're acquiring, we can really bring some good energy and good fun into the craft beer business and make it cool and fun again. And that's what the plan is.
How do you do that? How do you make them cool again?
So listen, you can't just stack them high and watch them fly. And you got to connect with consumers. You got to connect with the Gen Z. You got to connect with baby boomers. You got to let them know what is exciting about beer today. And listen, we've done that in regards to our 420 with Montauk. We've done that in regards to gummy beers coming out in regards to Sweetwater. Some of the other IPAs that we launched with packaging and bottles, etc. You know, we revolved a lot around concerts and music, etc. So again, it's coming up with unique products, it's connecting to the consumer. And with that, we'll hopefully get these products growing in the right direction and giving them attention. Absolutely got to spend money on them. You got to ultimately, you know, enhance some of the packaging. And I think there's such big opportunities. I think the opportunities with Shop Top, I think the opportunities, you know, in regards to some of these other ones, Blue Point, you put Blue Point and, you know, Montauk together. I think there is such great opportunities and synergies to market them alongside each other here in the New York area. So, you know, what it does for Tilray also, it allows us to put together a national beer business today and allows us to put together our distributors, allows us to become more important to distributors, more important to retailers. And ultimately, it's important to let the consumer know how we're all combined and connected.
And as you mentioned, part of the impetus, the original impetus behind getting into this business was to sort of serve as a bridge, right? To sort of smooth out revenue in what is an unpredictable time. You know, when we would have talked a couple of years ago, it seemed like at that point that federal legalization was closer than it feels like it is right now. What's your current thinking on that?
And, you know, great question. You know, I can't predict what our government is going to do. You know, cannabis is legal in about 37 different
This was before
you know,
all of
states
this.
out there.
This was
in regards
when
to
they
medical or
acquired
recreational.
these brands.
So I can't sit back and sort of wait and say, hey, it's going to be legal next year. Originally, I thought when the Biden administration, it'd be legal today, but that's not the case. So what I need to do for our shareholders is to have predictability on revenues and growth. And ultimately, we're well positioned upon legalization where the adjacencies, and there's no reason you cannot have beer out there without alcohol, of course, that is infused with THC, and consumers want that. There's no reason you can't have spirits out there that are infused with THC. So I think, you know, ultimately, we're well positioned. And when legalization happens, not if, when it happens, we're ready for it. We're one of the largest grower in Canada. We have over 5 million square feet of grow space. We really know how to grow cannabis. We know how to develop products in the cannabis space. You know, we're going to get better in the beer business in regards to craft beers and some of the uniqueness. We're in the spirits business with our bourbons and vodkas and gin products. So we're in these businesses today. And ultimately, how do we all pull together? And when legalization happens, we're ready to, come out there with beers and bourbons and that would are fused with THC.
And Erwin, finally, a quick question on deal process, because obviously the other party involved in this deal has gotten a lot of headlines lately in the form of Anheuser-Busch and with Bud Light in particular. Have you had your eye on these brands for a while and sort of maybe some of the challenges at Anheuser-Busch lately opened the door for them to be more willing to sell these brands to you guys?
Listen, I picked up the phone and called ABI and, explained them what I was trying to do. And they were great to work with. And I think they saw right reasons why it made sense to divest. And we're taking all their people that come along with this here. We're working with them on a transition. So, I think it's totally separate. And I'm sure that we would have been able to work with ABI if they, were not dealing with some of the other stuff they are. But it's, again, having the vision for Tilray, and no different than having the vision in buying Montauk or having the vision to buy Sweetwater, was ultimately we needed distribution in the Pacific Northwest. We needed more manufacturing for Montauk, in the Northeast here, and Blue Point came along with that. The cider business, which is an excellent growing business and, pretty exciting with Highball, I still think there's big upside on on the energy drink business. So it really fit perfect with what we're trying to do. Right. Some of these beers will be sold in Canada. So the opportunity, for us is tremendous.
Well, Erwin.
Well, yeah, so that's the direction he's going. And a lot of it, the reason why he was doing it is to get footholds into certain parts of the world. The guy's a genius. So pretty much let's break this down here. We got the leader in the MJ space, just in general. We have the leader in the United States in medical. Yes, it's not in Canada or Ireland or Canada or Ireland. It's not in those, but it's in the United States. We have Simon here, who we're only paying $15 million a year. By the way, the AMC guy makes like $30 million a year, and he does absolutely nothing. So, I mean, it was really simple to pay. I mean, what kind of market cap do you put on that? Like, even if they're not making money right now, which they barely are, I mean, you still have this in play. Medical, top leader, and Irvin. Like, I mean, what more can you ask for? So that's why I've been buying this company for the past year, and I'll probably, during earnings, of course, like I said, I'll have it on here. I might be adding to this position if I really like the earnings. The only thing I'm worried about is any sort of stock split or anything like that, which I'll still want to hear him out on that, but I'm hoping that we don't hear nothing like that. But I don't think we will. Like, he wasn't really leaning towards that when he was talking about profitability last quarter. So, and I've always heard consistency in what he's saying. So, he's just building, and yes, we flatlined, but I mean, there's a good reason for it, not because of the fundamentals. The fundamentals have been getting better on this company, and the way it sets is, I think it's even one of the most shorted stocks in the whole stock market. So imagine the squeeze that this could potentially have. I'm in, and I'm going to continue to watch it. I'm definitely not selling. I want to hear more of what's coming out of the White House. If they deny this, I might lose my shit. I might freak out. All right, because if they don't really come through with this, and it's his last chance. I know. I mean, he might have a couple other cards to play, but this is a pretty big card. I mean, you already have Camilla saying that it's kind of crazy and pardoning people. So you got people still sitting in jail when others are getting out because of it. You got certain states that are legal. It's a mess. Just kind of like what it is in the government. It's kind of more of a mess. We need to get direction. I mean, this could really help in the medical field. Why not give access to it? You better. I mean, otherwise you're going to have some angry people. Well, I'll at least be questioning it. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, it's not harmful like that. Then at least ban cigarettes and alcohol. Make it fair. Because the way it's set and you're putting this with fentanyl, really? Really? So I'm going to definitely be keeping my eyes on it. I'll be paying attention to the earnings calls, be digging a little bit more into things about the company because I plan on adding more. I mean, I'm sitting okay in it, but either way, I just wanted to give you an update on what stock I was actually buying in the MJ space. Not financial advice, do whatever you want. Last week the market, I heard, wasn't doing very well. That's just what I heard. When I open up my stock, they're doing fine. So I don't know, but we're killing it, and I think we're going to continue to kill it through the week until we hear some negative news, which we better not. You hear me? We really better not. Anyway, guys, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.